Is the greatest conversation you've had with a stranger? When I was in high school, I was a lazy student who spent most of my time goofing off with my friends. I didn't really see the point of school because I was always at the bottom of the curve, failed every major exam at the end of the year, and was counted absent more than present. Surf and turf or steak and lobster nights were far more interesting to me than taking a test on the assigned material. I went to public school in a rather wealthy town and I was way out of my league. With my lack of studying and academic performance, I knew I wasn't going to college. I just didn't know when that was going to happen, or how it would happen if it did. It never occurred to me that it actually would. I was 17 at the time, during the last week of my senior year, and it was Friday afternoon of the last week of school. I was in the study hall, sitting in the back studying, yes, studying, and the study hall teacher wasn't even in the room, so everyone was just kind of hanging out. I noticed the janitor coming around with a broom, and he had this really wide gate that traced the perimeter of the room, as if he was circling wagons. He made 3 laps around the room and then came to a stop right in front of me before saying, "So, I'm guessing you're not like the rest of these kids then." I was caught off guard at first since I didn't say a word to him, but then I realized that he was looking down at the floor at my shoes. I must have been the only kid in the room who was wearing a nice pair of dress shoes. Except for that, I certainly looked the part to fit in with them. The janitor said, "You're either going to end up really great or really terrible." I was trying to smile at the time, but the tone of what he said really gave me pause and caught me off guard. He continued, "There will be lots of opportunities along the way. Big ones, small ones, in-between ones. I could tell you to study hard and pursue your interests, but that would be redundant. You already know that. The real question is what you will do when opportunity presents itself. Little things. Be kind to someone who is down and out. Someone who doesn't have a friend in the world." I interrupt the janitor at this point and say that I don't have any friends in this room. He said, "People come and go. You'll see. Make new friends. But if someone is down and out, make that person your friend. That may be the kind of person you will need someday." This is getting a little woo-woo, so maybe I interrupted him again and asked what he meant with that. He said, "Challenge yourself. Find your passion and don't just settle. Learn to defend yourself, just in case. Remember, there is nothing really new in this world. Don't be afraid to fail. If you do fail, get back up and do it again. Do things others won't do. Get outside. Enjoy nature." This is when I asked him if he went to college, and he laughed and said, "Not hardly." He said that he grew up dirt poor and dropped out of school by the 8th grade. It took me aback, but I guess that's part of the janitor's charm. His realness. He said, "Don't feel bad for someone who has it easy in life. You don't learn from easy things, you learn from hard things. Don't pity people who live a life of ease. You don't know how they got there. Don't look at your peers. Look to the past, those who came before you. Be careful at whom you point your finger. You might want to change the direction the finger is pointing. And you kids are nothing but trouble these days." Hearing that, I deadpanned, "We're kids?" The janitor was quite proud of that and said, "Ha, that's more than I've heard from some people twice your age." Then he sort of scuffed his shoe on the ground, took a deep breath and said, "You know why you're here. You have your own unique ability. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Everyone is special. Everyone is capable. If, on the other hand, you're really just a slacker who will not succeed no matter what, then at least you know that now too." With that, he gave me a firm handshake, wished me luck and headed toward the door. I said out loud that I appreciated his words, and he said quietly, "You're worth it, kid. Don't settle for less. You're not alone." I never saw the janitor again after that. The week after school ended, my parents came into my room and said something like, "We heard some great news today." They gave me the green light to take a trip with my uncle for the summer. I would be going on a family hunting trip to Canada with my older uncle. He was a lifelong bachelor and hunter who worked like hell all his life and never really had anyone to share any of it with. He would fly me up to Canada, show me the ropes with a gun, and we'd hunt together. That was probably the best summer of my life. As soon as I got to town where we were going to depart, he told me that my grandfather had opened up his bank account and deposited $40,000 in my account to help pay for college. My uncle told me that he knew what was going on with my academic performance because he had been in touch with my grandfather for years. I had no clue. My uncle handed me a 1-page typewritten note from my grandfather that was dated over 6 years prior that said, "I care about this boy and want to help him. Use whatever you want from the account for your hunting trip together, but I want him to have $10,000 for college at the end of it." I went from being convinced I would never graduate high school to having 0 student loan debt after I finished a year of community college. I worked my butt off from there on out and ended up going to a great university. I was admittedly mad when I learned of my grandfather's organized plan behind the scenes, since I wanted it to be my hard work that got me there, but I came around to appreciate the full story anyway. That janitor said something that really stuck with me. I had developed a persistent cough during that trip that didn't abate no matter how much I tried to clear my throat. I was taking a 0-calorie beverage in place of meals during lunchtime and at supper, out of a feeling of wanting to consider other people first, because too much food created a feeling of guilt when being around a table filled with people who didn't have enough food. I had the most profound dream the morning I was to leave town. I met the janitor. He was sitting right next to me. He said, "You had the right idea. Eat however much you want. You may want to reconsider your beverage choices, as I noticed you haven't touched it in a while." I replied that I felt it was more important to make sure everyone had some. The janitor said, "You're worried that they might consume your drink since they are thirsty. Let me ask you this. Are you giving with the understanding that whatever you might give is going to be diminished in some way?" And I told him it bothered me that might be how the person receiving it might perceive it. We live in a world of perception, but I know for a fact that nothing is taken away from you unless that's what you indicated that you were comfortable with. Certainly, you can't be worried about what everybody else needs when you might overlook what you need. People figure themselves out based on how you interact with them, but you don't let anyone else tell you what to think, or how to act or react. Do you get me? At the time, it sounded a little convoluted to me and I really didn't understand what he was talking about. After my 10-year high school reunion, I sat in the parking lot with a friend and wondered what would have been different if I had been a little more outgoing with people.